welcome to this episode of the Driving the Difference show. I'm your host, Jacquelene Brotherton. This episode is about our Transport Women Australia Driving the Difference conference to be held next month. My first guest this morning is Sally Tipping, Managing Director of Tipping Transport. Good morning, Sal. Welcome to the show and thank you for coming in this morning.
Oh, thanks, Jacqueline. It's just lovely to be here.
So, Sal, we just met recently and found that we had a lot in common and really love the trucking industry.
Yes.
And I think we'll have another on this show again about that. But this morning we just want to talk a little bit, if you want to tell us about yourself and your interest in the trucking industry and a little bit about tippings, and then we'll talk a little bit more about your interest in Transport Women.
Great. Thanks, Jacqueline. First of all, yes, Grant and I, my husband Grant and I have run a transport company for over 30 years now, and we're situated in Dubbo in the central west New South Wales. Currently we're just running mainly between Dubbo and Sydney, and we operate between 5 and 10 prime movers normally, just depending on the circumstances.
That's great. And so you've recently become, Sally, you've recently become a member of Transport Women Australia. And what motivated you to do that at this time?
Well, to be quite honest, Jacqueline, it did take me a while to become a member. I really wanted to join an organisation that was the best fit for myself and that actually had substance. And so I found the Transport Women Australia had some great programs. The mentoring programs I really am interested in, and also having a voice. And it's an independent view of the transport industry. So after a couple of years, I decided to join in February. So I'm really excited to be here and very excited about the conference in Melbourne.
That's great. And we are obviously excited to have you on board because you're very vocal and you've also have a presence in the industry with some of your own initiatives. And having a voice out in the regional areas is something really, really important to us. And to see that you've attended some of our events and you're coming with us to the conference is something also that's very exciting for us, and bringing that regional voice to our conference. And that's really exciting. And to be able to bring you here to Import-Export TV this morning is really exciting. So your thoughts on coming to the conference? This was obviously your first Transport Women Australia conference.
Very excited. I attended a breakfast in Sydney for International Women's Day and connected with quite a few people I got a lot of benefit out of it. I connected with Tim Wetlock from AEI Insurance, and he actually helped me with some insurance issues that I had. I had an issue with one of my policies, so that was fantastic. And also with Louise as a party. Louise and I connected, and we have got a lot in common, and I'm trying to connect Louise with our local Dubbo TAFE teacher to mentor a couple of girls that are apprentice in the Dubbo region. So that's quite an exciting little thing that I got out of just the breakfast in March. And
of course, Tim and AEI have been long-term sponsors and
yes.
supporters of Transport Women.
Yes.
And Louise, of course, is a huge go-getter and a very ardent supporter of Transport Women, as we are of Louise, because she's been an outstanding young woman in the industry, and to have someone in the trades industry doing so much has been super exciting, and to just go out on her own, and she'll be at the conference as well. So that's
and it's the next generation, Jacqueline. It's just great to have that excitement from younger people.
And that's what we are trying to do at Transport Women, is to bring those young people forward, because obviously my generation can't last forever, and and you want those people to come along and do that. And that's why we find that we have a lot of young women coming up now and joining in with our events, with our conferences and things like that. And the mentoring and the and the scholarships are helping with that. So we have several of our members bring a lot of their young women through to the conference, and I think that's, and especially to the conference, but sometimes to the events, whereas a lot of times before only the senior staff got to go, and I think that's a mistake we've all made in our companies, just to take the senior staff along as a reward rather than to bring the younger staff through to just show them what the industry is all about. So we're really looking forward to having you, and I think you've got some other regional members coming through with you, which is super exciting. And obviously we're hoping that then we can have some regional events that we'll put on your plate to organise out in the Central West for you, which would be great. So that would be really good. And if you can get something, Louise talking to the taste out there, that'll be another spin-off, which will be really, really good. And obviously we want to talk to you in the future about your Wave to a Truckie campaign, but you might just quickly, in 5 words or less, tell us a little bit about that and how it's been for you.
Yeah, I've had it running for a couple of years now, and it's really about promoting our industry, because I believe if we promote the industry, it might be a first career choice rather than a second or third or fourth career choice. And also it'll lift that public perception and lead to safer, calmer roads. And that's where I'm going towards with Wave to a Truckie.
And of course, that's where we became instantly close, was our passion for changing our image and looking after our drivers and making sure that it is a career choice, because everybody talks about training, but you have to attract them first. And that's part of making them seen as human, is what the Wavy does for everybody, is to see them as
our industry.
Exactly. And I think that's really, really important. So I think that's something that needs more promotion, and obviously when we invite you back next time, we'll talk more about that campaign and what we can see into the future as to making a campaign to make that happen more widely, and what else we can do about that. But that's something we'll have Import Export TV at the conference, and they'll be interviewing people and recording some interviews there, so that'll be exciting for the attendees as well. So that's something we're really looking forward to, the partnership we've just made with them. And we're really hoping that you hit the red carpet there and make an impression. So that'll be really, really great. So we're obviously looking forward to the conference, and welcome you to Melbourne, and hopefully that we don't have any impediments to that in the next few weeks, and we're all bright and starry-eyed in the end of May when it all comes through. So I think that's going to be the best thing for us. To see each other face to face at an event is going to be great. So we've had so much in the last 12 months that's prevented that. So we're super excited about the conference and seeing everybody back again at a function in person, and not seeing everybody over Zoom for a change, which will be really exciting. So I think if we do that, we can look forward to a bright and happy future.
Absolutely. No, looking so forward to the conference.
Yeah, me too. So thanks, Sally. Thank you for joining us this morning, and we'll see you in less than a month.
Oh, yes. Thanks, Jacqueline. We'll see you there.
Thank you. Take care. Thanks, Sal.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us for the Driving Different show. We'll be back with the next segment in just a few moments. Thank you.
Think about the clothes you're wearing, the food you're eating, or even the furniture in your home. There is a story and history associated with every product you've ever bought. Unfortunately, sometimes the workers who make your products are subjected to terrible working conditions, are not treated fairly, or the manufacturing process is harmful to the environment. There are many forms of modern slavery and damaging production methods, but it's up to us, industry leaders and the consumers themselves, to take a stand so that we can contribute to a healthier planet and to changing the lives of everyone involved across the global supply chains for the better. Ethical Trade Alliance enables buyers to make informed choices on all of the products they purchase.
Welcome back to the Driving Different show. With me now is Jacqui Alder. Welcome, Jacqui. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, and thank you for having me, Jacqueline.
I'm so excited to have you here with me and having you as our opening keynote at the Driving the Difference conference later in the month with Trans Women Australia. Oh, not this month, in a month. Sorry, yes. So, Jackie, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself for starters, and then we'll get on to the conference?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll start with now as to where I am and how you and I came to meet as a woman who worked through non-traditional and predominantly male industries over the last 30 to 40 years. I've come to the point in my career today where I'm interested in seeing the women that are still doing so and are yet to do so to be able to thrive and to be themselves without having adjusting themselves to fit into what they think they should be. So that's my purpose. History-wise, my background is originally in finance and then in human resources, and I worked across the transport, defence, government and resources and oil and gas industries in Australia and in Asia and in Europe as well.
Excellent. And I think we met when you were publishing your book.
That's right.
The Self-Coaching Journal for Women. So that's one of the things you're passionate about, I know. And I have to admit, I haven't gone through the whole book, so we have to be very clear about that. I'm a little bit time poor. So, but that's one of the things we're going to be talking about in the opening keynote. And I know I'm really excited about it, and the rest of the board is as well, having you on board. And we met then, and then you came to one of our dinners and in Perth last year, when we had a very quick opening of the borders there at one stage when I flew in and flew out of Perth rather quickly. And that's when you probably got more than you bargained for that night.
Nothing I haven't experienced before, Jacqueline, I can assure you.
I'm sure. So, and then we decided to invite you along, and as I said, everybody was going. So you might just tell us a little bit about what's happening with that and how you came to be doing that and how you feel about that.
Well, I'm particularly looking very forward to the conference, and for me, I'm looking forward to. I have it's quite a hot time in terms of the debate about gender, and the word gender wars has come up again, which it came up in the 1960s and 70s when I was a very young girl. And I'm very keen not to see it as a war. I very much see it as a partnership. I know in my own career, it was the men who supported me and encouraged me and gave me opportunity. And one of the things that brought me to the point where I found myself devoting myself to helping other women to succeed is that I feel that we've sometimes perhaps lost sight of that, but also that the women today feel like they have to do it all themselves and be something other than they are, whereas perhaps your experience as well, there wasn't anyone to copy or had to be like. So I worked out my own way to do it, and it worked quite well for me. And even in hindsight, I think, well, I probably wouldn't do too much difference because it was me who did it. So that's my core message. And I suppose my other core message is that we do this together. Together we're better. That's what diversity is about. And it's not a problem about men, and it's not a problem about women. It's that we live in a context where we're going through a lot of social change, and we're coming to terms with it. Lots of things are still designed based on half-century and even century-plus old ideas, things that we see, in yourself in the transport industry about design issues for, women driving rigs and all those sorts of issues. So the physical world is designed with those assumptions, and so is our concept of leadership and management and a range of invisible things. So I suppose they're the core themes that I'll be touching on.
And that's really correct. Like, we're really all on the same team, and I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for the men in my life, the ex-bosses and my father and my father-in-law and all the men that supported me. But there were no female role models back when I started, and you just have to be authentic and be yourself, and you'll get the support you need, whether it be from male or females. And I think that's what we need to get across to the people today, is they just have to be themselves and actually know there is support out there for them. And talking about the design, several of the truck builders are working towards that, designing, because, you know, women are shaped different to men, and designing the seats different, and designing how they design the trucks better to make, you know, the body configuration better, to make the seats happening differently and all that sort of thing. And even workwear now, you know, is designed, you know, high-vis and all that is designed for things. But it took a long time for that to happen. Everybody had to wear the male workwear and things like that. And I think that's all changing, and I think that's really important that does happen. But we're not on opposing teams, and you're not going to make change without you have the support of men, and you're not going to make change if you demonise men. And I know we're on the same page in that, and I think that's what we really have to get across. And I think, you know, you're so passionate about that as well.
Yeah, indeed, and it comes from, you know, experience. It comes from experience of, you know, all sides of humanity, from all sorts of people. We're all in whatever we're in together. We like to say it in these current circumstances with this, in these interesting times, and we are truly all in it together. And as a child of the 1960s, whose mother had previously had to give her career up because she was a nurse and she got married, and that's what you did. The law required that, you know, if you worked in certain professions, you couldn't continue your career because you didn't need a job because you had a husband to look after you. And,
exactly.
And that actually had quite dire economic impacts on our family and my childhood. And I do remember when that changed, and I was only 3 years old at the time. I don't remember that, but I do remember the impacts of that changing, and my mother, who, you know, childcare wasn't in the frame either. So once my mother could actually practically re-enter the workforce, being the youngest child, I was perhaps the greatest beneficiary of that, but I also then saw how much of an impact not that had on the family, but on my mother as a person in being able to be her whole self and not be restrained.
It seems amazing that all that's happened just in our lifetimes, and how much it's changed, and for the better. But all of those things are necessary now, I think, for people to realise just how we need to work together on this. That it's not a us and them, that we're all people and we're all trying to do the best we can. And I think that's really, really important. And I think that's what will come across in your keynote as well. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you, but also looking forward to hearing you on the Saturday morning. So very excited about that.
That's great.
Okay, and thanks for getting up so early for us this morning, and being so good to come on the show. So we'll see you in just 4 weeks' time, I think, Jacqui. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for watching this segment of Driving the Different Show. We'll be back shortly with the next segment. Thank you.
Think about the clothes you're wearing, the food you're eating, or even the furniture in your home. There is a story and history associated with every product you've ever bought. Unfortunately, sometimes the workers who make your products are subjected to terrible working conditions, are not treated fairly, or the manufacturing process is harmful to the environment. There are many forms of modern slavery and damaging production methods, but it's up to us, industry leaders and the consumers themselves, to take a stand so that we can contribute to a healthier planet and to changing the lives of everyone involved across the global supply chains for the better. Ethical Trade Alliance enables buyers to make informed choices on all of the products they purchase.
Welcome back to the Driving the Difference show. I'm Jacquelene Brotherton. With me now is David Coleman, also known as the Dating Doctor. Welcome, David. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me. It's so nice to see you, Jacqueline.
Same. And we're so looking forward to having you as our closing keynote at the Driving the Difference conference next month, the Transit Women Australia Driving the Difference conference. So obviously we wanted to have you here in person, but that wasn't happening at the moment. So would you like to just tell our audience a little bit about yourself to start with quickly? And then we'll dive in.
First of all, I'm thrilled to be keynoting, closing keynote for your conference. And of course, I would love to be there with you. Who wouldn't want to be with you all in paradise? But I'm thrilled to be with you in this capacity, and having worked a bit with you before, it's an honor, and I'm very thrilled to have been chosen. I'm very, very fortunate. For the past 15 or 20 years, I've been considered one of the top speakers and entertainers in America, and I'm very lucky. I've had about 5,000 appearances worldwide. You've seen me at a couple of those at the Women in Trucking Convention here in the United States. So I've also been privileged to have spoken on 90 plus military bases around the world for our troops. And I do anywhere from college campuses to large corporations and large conferences like you saw me at, to keynotes like I'll be doing for you. And I'm really, really thrilled to be doing this because I, for one, know and have seen personally that the trucking industry moves the world. And it doesn't matter where it's moving the world, it moves the world. So I'm pretty honored to have been chosen.
Thank you. We're honored to have you. And you're right, the trucking industry does move the world. And if you have it, we bought it.
It's absolutely true.
Exactly. And of course, you speak both on personal relationships and business relationships, and you touch on both in your presentations, which is great because that's what it's all about. Sometimes they're totally differently and compartmentalized, and sometimes they are all part of the one relationship. And obviously you have some laughs and you have some serious parts of those conversations, which is really important. And also your presentations are very interactive, which we still hope to do, even though we won't see you here in person. We want to make that as much interactive with the audience as we can, coming down here to Australia through the Zoom meeting. But we're looking forward to that, and we're hoping that we can have that David Coleman magic come through to us on the keynote presentation. So David, what are you thinking about talking to us about at that time and presenting to the women down here and the men? Of course, our members consist of women and men, the same as women in trucking, probably more so the men that come to our conference as well. So we're really, and obviously we want it to be turned towards business, but also to touch on those personal relationships. Much smaller population down here, though, so we all know each other.
Okay.
So.
I'll tell you where I think I'll be coming from, and it's part of it is personal. I have flown 7 million miles during my career, but I have driven over 2 million miles in my career. And I can tell you right now, there are 3 different times that truckers saved my life. At least 2 or 3 times. One, when I was driving through a remote area near cliffs in Oregon, a trucker literally helped me down through a terrible blizzard. There's no way I would have made it off that mountain, not a chance. And then there's times where I was going to pass and they would kind of gently cut me off, knowing that there was danger ahead. That's happened at least 2 times. So number one, there's a continuous motion that the trucking industry has. No matter what capacity people work in your industry, they're constantly in motion. And that has an impact on how you do business. And it has a huge impact on relationships, because if you're going to be dedicated to your industry, and I've been working with you all long enough to know, you have to have tremendous self-discipline. And number 2, you're making some sacrifices. The people that are on the road delivering goods and services, and if we got it, a truck brought it to us, they weren't home at the moment they brought those goods and services to us. That impacts relationships. So you'll hear me talk about what it means to maintain a healthy relationship. I'm going to talk a bit about the long distance relationship of that industry. And you might say, but David, they might live in the same household, not while they're working. There's a transitional nature to that. And maybe one of the most important things I will talk about is to feel awfully good about what you're doing. I'd have to say that the trucking industry is one of the most underappreciated professions on the planet. During this whole pandemic, what did you hear people saying? First responders, the people in the hospitals, teachers, different professions, which of course they were heroes. There's no question. But so were the truck drivers who kept the world going. When everyone else was panicking and freaking out, they stayed the course. If they did that, they had great self-discipline and they sacrificed quite a bit to be there. So how do you feel good about that? How do you maintain your interpersonal relationships, your romantic relationships? How do you stay connected as a business and with those that you work with? I'll cover all that while we're having a good time. It'll be interactive and we'll laugh a bit.
That's right. And it's also the relationships we have with our customers and our long-term clients, because often you have, or with other trucking companies, because often you have those relationships, but you never actually get to meet the people. And how to maintain those long distance and long-term relationships is another thing, because so much is done through phone calls and emails and all of that, and yet it's a relationship that can go on for years and years and years, and you maintain those. Sometimes you're closer to those people than the people you really should be close to, because you talk to them more regularly than you probably do to the people at home or your own family. So but during the pandemic, as you said, we, for the first time ever, I think they realised the importance of the industry, of the whole supply chain, and it did get us some recognition, but how we keep that going, and how we make them see that we are essential, that we are human, and that we keep that image up there, that they see that it's really how important we are. I think that's something we really need to work on while we have that momentum. As you say, we didn't get the recognition as much as the others, but there were some industries that were really trying to help us, to thank us and make us feel that we were performing an essential service and we were appreciated, and that happened in quite a few places. But we're also found it very, very difficult in other places where they were making it more and more difficult and harder to keep the freight moving and to keep the food moving and all those things. So I think that's something we'll really appreciate from your presentation. And of course, as I said, have some fun. As you know, we get along really well, and we've had some funny times over the years in Dallas and Kansas City and so forth. And we're, again, long distance friendships, and that's how it all works in our industry, and of course in your own, I guess, as well, with all the traveling and everything.
I think what's important for people who are watching this, who will eventually see me speak, is I don't know if I've ever told you this, Jacqueline. I don't know if we've ever had this conversation, but I'm not a fan of speakers who get in front of a group and get them all excited and get them all pumped up. And at the end of it, the audience is like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. But they didn't teach them any skills, and they didn't give them a call to action. Whenever I speak, I try to put a mentality in people's heads that they can be as successful and happy as they want to be, number one. I want to develop a skill set in them to help make it happen. And then I will leave the audience on a call to action to help make that happen. And you know this based on the fact that we're on this call together tonight. The minute I end speaking doesn't end my relationship with people. It usually just begins it.
That's exactly right.
From the moment that they hear me speak, I'm going to be in their life if they want me to be.
That's right. Thank you so much, David. Thank you for joining us this morning. Lovely to see you again.
You too, and thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for watching this episode of the Driving Different Show. We're back with another episode very soon. Thank you.
Think about the clothes you're wearing, the food you're eating, or even the furniture in your home. There is a story and history associated with every product you've ever bought. Unfortunately, sometimes the workers who make your products are subjected to terrible working conditions, are not treated fairly, or the manufacturing process is harmful to the environment. There are many forms of modern slavery and damaging production methods, but it's up to us, industry leaders and the consumers themselves, to take a stand so that we can contribute to a healthier planet and to changing the lives of everyone involved across the global supply chains for the better. Ethical Trade Alliance enables buyers to make informed choices on all of the products they purchase.